Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by schoolbookkeeping.com. I'm so used to being the only one or two people here. We've got a crowded room here. It's kind of like a romper room or Zoom session. Everybody's crowded in here. So, but we are.
Oh, it's like the Brady Bunch. We got
a little mini Brady Bunch. We're a little mini Brady Bunch.
Where's Alice?
Rachel's definitely Marsha. I'll be Jan.
Okay. All right. Well, we are having an ongoing saga of of PayPal, and we're unwrapping or unraveling PayPal. I still don't understand why Rachel gets so excited about PayPal, but
well, Alex Chris is over there now. So Alex is there, and Kelsey's there, and there's a bunch of X Intuit stars that are there. So PayPal's, you got to watch PayPal.
It's a necessary evil, and we've Rachel and I have unpacked that over time. You know, it's something that's ease. It's an ease of use type of thing, and it ends up tipping people into more and more complexities as we'll kind of unravel that.
And the cool thing about PayPal is that they have a kind of a gateway product where individuals can use it. Right?
Yes.
So you get this experience of using it as an individual, and then you want to use it in your business. So they're just very, very smart.
Yeah, and I'll just add on one little thing quickly, is that the one thing that I'll say, and I know we've been discussing this for the past few weeks, is that when you think about it like PayPal and it's just this big giant thing, it can be very daunting. But in our world, in doing the bookkeeping and accounting for PayPal, when we've got lots of different clients that are using it for lots of different things, Dan and I were talking about this, and I know Jason, you're a fan of this too, is I always think of it in two ways. Way one is we're using PayPal as a payment method, and in the other situation, they're using PayPal as a means of all different things. So it can be one simple little thing that they're using PayPal for, which is fairly easy. And then there's everything else, which if you kind of think about it like that, there's sort of two buckets. And then we can kind of go on from there and talk about all kinds of different things. But that's the way that I usually like to think about it.
Yeah. So Jason, since we just kind of jumped into the meat of the conversation, but let's introduce ourselves here, because for those that
everybody doesn't know us. Everybody doesn't. Yeah. Who are these?
Yes.
Jason, why don't you introduce Allison, and then Allison, why don't you introduce Jason?
I'd love to. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Go, Jason.
I will introduce. So Allison is Bookkeep's head of marketing, VP of marketing, and she was before at Liscio, and for a long time at Intuit. Allison's an ex-accountant or recovering accountant. Can you say that? I don't know. Lawyers say that. And is really been a great help here at Bookkeep. So she knows everything about the accounting and the marketing.
Wow, thank you. That's awesome. So Jason is I love working with Jason because his brain is unbelievably brilliant. Like, I don't even know what's going on in his brain because it's just crazy. He is a serial launcher of high-tech initiatives that get sold for a lot of money. And one of his original jobs was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So he actually was an accountant way back when, and he had to automate things. And so that was when he sort of had his love of automation. And so the challenge I have working with Jason is that my brain can't keep up. And then the second thing is because he's so fast. And then the second thing is he wants to automate everything. And so it's amazing. But you kind of have to understand, like, okay, how do I tell that story? So we have a great time working together. And one of the things that I'm learning so much is that every day is an adventure in e-commerce, every single day. And there is something new that's happening, and Jason and the team have to respond to it, or there's some, I don't know, it's just amazing. So for excitement, I highly recommend working with Jason. It's very exciting. And he and his wife Ashley also have a wine shop that we use. Literally, he eats his own dog food because Bookkeep is the way that all of the transactions from the wine shop get booked into Xero. So
that's the best way to do it, is have a practical use. And
yeah.
I totally agree. This is like the reason that I love this so much as well. This is why I wanted to get right into it, is because a lot of it I've learned from Jason. But I also realized in the very beginning, kind of when I started doing this, is like when I started using Bookkeep and kind of figuring out how it all worked, and he's very helpful in that. I was like, oh yeah, this is how I like doing it. I love automating it, and I love reconciling it, and I love doing it this way. And I realized this way I can scale. This way I can get really heavy volume clients. This way I can like sort of do all the things. So more than even just, knowing a bunch of stuff, he's really helpful in guiding firms like mine into like, now I can really streamline, and I can think about things like, okay, these guys are all going to do it this way. These guys are all going to do it that way. And I can really organize my clients so much better.
Yeah.
Now, Jason,
well, that was very nice.
Jason, could
There's more. We could just talk about Jason.
There we go.
We just could.
It's some kind of roast of Jason now.
Yeah, we just could. The interesting thing about so he just gave a talk at BKX just yesterday. And and if those of you that are BKX, and it was about like using innovation to automate. Using automation to innovate in your practice. And one of the things that was so eye-opening for me is that, and Rachel and Daniel resonate with this, is you have to identify when you're looking at automation what the job of each app is. And so some apps are data movers, and others are data storers. I know that's not a word, but they store data, right? So if you think of QuickBooks Online as your storage, right? And PayPal as sort of an activity thing that's taking money, right? So it's doing something. Maybe it's storing money, storing transactions. You've got to figure out a way to move that data. And by the way, Dan, should we back up and say what Bookkeep is, just in case people don't know? Or
well, that's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you guys to introduce Bookkeep. So you introduce Bookkeep now.
Yeah. So what if you had to summarize it in 30 seconds? Like, what is Bookkeep? What would you? I mean, you're in accountant conference season, right? So you've had nothing but practice over the past couple of weeks of people coming up as, well, what is Bookkeep?
You want me to go or Jason? Jason, you go.
Well, I can't do it in 2 sentences, but essentially we move data and accurately calculate proper summary entries from all of your e-commerce POS systems, as well as payment platforms. And we also then book your payout deposits with all the fees associated. So, and we do it with accrual accounting. So that means we book sales on the day that the sales happen. So if you're familiar with Amazon, a lot of apps out there basically will book Amazon when the payout hits your bank account. But that doesn't always work because you're doing sales every single day, and those payouts come every 2 weeks, and they might be in another period from when you want to book your sales. So what we try to do is book accurate sales summaries across all your platforms so that you can look at your P&L on a daily basis, or you can do comparisons day to day, a month to month. And so essentially if everyone here had a lot of time on their hands, they would book daily numbers into their accounting system. No one has time to do manual entries of summaries every day, but we automate that for everyone. So there you go.
I have to add one thing too, from a cost accounting perspective, not just sales, booking cogs on an accrual basis, because most of my clients are inventory, and I'm really, really heavy into inventory.
Yeah.
And so not just necessarily e-commerce, but commerce, you know what I mean? And using all kinds of electronic payment methods and stuff. So when you're moving goods, you really have to gap accounting. You have to account for your cost of goods sold in the appropriate time period. So this is extremely important. So that's why something like Bookkeep is very, very important for me.
Yeah,
I would have just described us as a secure data bridge between e-commerce and retail. Point of sale systems and accounting systems like QuickBooks Online, Xero, Zoho Books, and Sage Intacct. We did just add Sage Intacct. And that one's pretty exciting because we can go to all the different dimensions, because Sage Intacct has all these different segments that you can go to, so we can add all those. So I love what Rachel said about the more complex clients, because that is an area where we differentiate from other apps, is that you literally can bring your most hairy, most complex clients that are multi-channel, using point of sale, using e-commerce, using all the apps, all the payment systems. And we can help you get that all mapped so that it's literally, you go to bed at night and you wake up in the morning and your books are up to date. So we've been described that it works so well that you forget you're using it, right?
Exactly.
I do sometimes.
Once you put in all the ingredients, it's much like a crock pot. You know, it's once you put all the ingredients in there, you just set it on low for, however long. You
overnight.
Get your emails
overnight, every night.
You get your emails the following day, and they just post. And one of the things that I really love about Bookkeep, not just because Jason decided to solve his own problem, because I'm gravitated to applications where that's where they've created their own solution, and by the way, other people can benefit from that too. Is that it provides a direct link to the transaction itself. If you do need to make changes to that, to how it's broken out, you can update the exact same transaction. So there's not this push pull, type of situation.
It's editable and auditable,
and the fact that you get daily summary emails, so that you can just, if you have a slew of clients that are using them, you can just see how well things are doing.
It's just red, green, yellow, isn't it? It's like, well, if it's red, you've got something got disconnected and you've got to go in and take an action. Yellow is like a sort of a heads up, like, oh, you didn't have any sales for that day. Like, Jason, you discovered that the wine store didn't open one day because you got a note.
Yeah, scheduling mix up. Yes.
And so he got a yellow flag saying, there's no sales for the day.
There was no
right?
sale.
And he's like, there should be. Not a happy surprise. And then green is like, yep, everything is fine. So you just eyeball it. It's like your coffee email in the morning.
So I will say though, guys, and this is one thing that now that I've been doing this for, a few years, that I do want to point out, because what we are talking about is, it's not just, I'm going to turn on the switch and woo, everything's working. What we were talking about a little bit before we got online was, you do need to have an understanding of, strong understanding of accounting rules and, bookkeeping, and where does everything, the flow of everything, where does everything go on the financial statement. And this tool isn't for people that are managing their inventory quantities in QuickBooks Online.
QuickBooks. That's right. That's right.
I will say, managing inventory in QuickBooks is really the greatest thing in the world for a plethora of reasons. Those of us that usually deal with more complex inventory rarely manage inventory in QuickBooks. I do have a couple clients, like I've got a couple hair salons and we've got like a small inventory. In that situation, we will manage inventory in QuickBooks, or maybe they've got like under 5 SKUs or something like that. And I have this one guy, he has 2 SKUs and he's managing all the inventory in QuickBooks because he only deals with 2 products. There are a lot of very similar situations like that in which it's fine. But the bulk of the time, if they're a pretty complex store, like in Jason's case in the wine shop, we are not managing inventory in QuickBooks. We are using an external IMS some kind of maybe more complex ERP, managing it in Shopify, all kinds of different places. Maybe if you're FBA Amazon, you're managing it there. There's all kinds of different places to manage it. This is not a conversation of where to manage inventory or managing inventory, but let's just assume that you're managing it there. That's where your quantities are going up and down, and we're sending a valuation to QuickBooks. And this is what we're using Bookkeep for. So in order to do that, we have to tell it what to do in the very beginning. And that can be a little complex. And what Jason had mentioned, it posts my sales, it posts my payouts. And so I want to translate that for the QuickBooks folks. What that means is you're going to get a match in the bank feed. Instead of adding things, you're going to see match for all those payouts that are coming. So a lot of times, like not just Bookkeep, a lot of other different apps that I use when I'm talking about them in training and various things, well, I love to talk about, we're setting you up for a match. The match is gold. We want that.
It's match.com. It's match.com for accounting and PayPal and Shopify.
Exactly. So oftentimes I'll kind of come in and do the heavy lifting and set it up so they get that match. And so it's not really something that I would recommend if they've got a complex store like the business owner do. It's not really meant for that. Jason and Allison, you guys totally say different if that's the case, but I usually and Jason, you can talk about the whole setup and mapping and whatever, but in my opinion, it can get real. It can get real.
We do prefer, Rachel, when there's someone like you on the other end that understands the flow. I do want to assure the people listening that we do have a professional services onboarding team that helps, and we even offer to do the mapping for you if you really just aren't capable. It's interesting where it gets a little gray is when we find accountants and bookkeepers who don't understand it. So then what we prefer for them is for them to go through the certification that we have. And sometimes we will refer them to people like you, Rachel, where we're like, hey, let's just have you work with someone who's really knowledgeable so that who really just very niche-y, really understands that vertical, and they can answer the questions and things. But in general, we sell to accountants and bookkeepers like yourself, Rachel, who specialize or have e-commerce and retail clients. And then we also have a very large percentage of our clients have CFOs in-house, and they're the multi-million and $5 and $10 million and up, and they have CFOs that are like, they know what they need, right? These are people. So in general, accounting professionals, I guess is what I want to say, is our best fit. Now the other thing is, we are on all of the app stores, so we get Stripe and we get Square, and we get all the ones from the app stores, and those tend to be very small, and so we do the mapping for them. A lot of times they don't. A lot of times they don't have an accountant. So I agree literally violently with what you're saying. You should know account. You should
vehemently.
Know. I do vehemently. I agree. I'm like, yes. And not everyone has the knowledge that you have. So it's a case of we do try to make it, but in general,
we have good documentation too.
We love our accountant and bookkeepers because for the most of the times they know their stuff.
Well, and guess what? Like now, as you guys build more and do more, I can easily spot the problem. I can easily spot the errors, and so I can go in and be like, "Oh, that's okay. You've set it up and you've been using it for the past 8 months. Oh, I can see exactly where you've gone wrong. Like make one little change, set them on the right path."
Yep.
So not only is set it up properly, the way that it posts is actually so helpful for fixing it. That's true. And so that's one thing that I really loved about it too, is that I can easily look at it and figure, so let's definitely start talking about PayPal, because that's the one thing that as I said in the very beginning, when I said, don't freak out, we want to think about it basically in two ways. So Jason, why don't you talk about kind of those two things that I said?
Well, so with PayPal, you have to, you have to think about PayPal as a payment method. Generally, it's used as a payment method. It's not a sales system. So we have sales systems and we have payment methods. Shopify is a sales system. It's also a payment method, but it also has other payment methods. One that's more traditionally just a sales system would be like WooCommerce. With WooCommerce, you're using PayPal and Stripe as your payment method, although they just added now WooCommerce payments or something, whatever it's called. But everyone always tries to get into payments to make money. So, but then they work with others, and you have to understand the difference between the two. And the difference is, if it's a sales system, it will know who the customer was, what the sales tax was, what the products were, what the total was, and what payment method was used. If it's a payment system, it will know a total amount. It won't know what the sales tax is. It won't know what the customer is. It generally won't know any of those things unless, basically that's the difference. So generally, you can't book revenue from PayPal if that revenue was created on Shopify. That sales system was Shopify, because Shopify is going to give us, as well as you, when you're looking at those reports, what the revenue was, and say this $100 plus $10 of sales tax went against $110 at PayPal. And that's really what often confuses people, because they might add two apps together. They might add a PayPal connector, which with Bookkeep you don't need to do because we have our own PayPal connector. And people don't always understand that you need to not book the PayPal part as revenue, because Shopify booked it as revenue. Now, where it gets really complicated is that that PayPal and Stripe will also let you send invoices to customers. So some of that might be revenue that you have to book. But with Bookkeep, you can handle all that. We have the capability of segmenting what was done on Shopify or WooCommerce from what was done initiated in PayPal as revenue, so that you can book those lines. The PayPal stuff, if you send a PayPal invoice directly to a client, that will show up on a revenue line that you can book to revenue. But the rest of the express checkout payments, we're going to match that with what Shopify said you did for express checkout payments. And that's where things can get a little complicated. We can get into that, but basically, what we do with PayPal is our app connector for PayPal will pull and summarize all of the high volume stuff, but we do itemize. When you use, the big complexity with PayPal, as most people here know, is that people then use their balance to pay vendors. And so you have payment.
These are accounting adventures, really. It's like,
and you're getting that with Stripe.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dan and I said last week, and even before, what did I say, Dan? I highly recommend, when you're talking with your high volume folks, do not use PayPal for buying stuff. I always advise them not to. I don't like it. I advise them, use it for money in. Collect that money in. Let's not bother with money going out, because of what Jason's saying. It can get complex. And then P.S., this is what I said last week. What is the biggest mistake we see all the time? Duplication. Because of what Jason's saying. We've got it posting from one source, and then guess what? They've connected it over here.
Comes in again.
Revenue here. So we've got two sources of revenue. We don't want that. We want Bookkeep posting the revenue. Bookkeep then on that journal entry, we're breaking out the offset to payments to be expected. And then you're booking that payment to be expected to wash that out. And then what comes through the bank feed, match. Perfect scenario.
Yep. So we capture all the fees, any loans, any transactions in PayPal that need to be itemized in your QuickBooks, though, we can handle that for you. And right now we post each of your payouts. I mean, so if your client is using it for paying bills, we can handle that for you. And we're actually going to get even better with that. We're actually going to start posting those as proper expenses. Right now we post it as a journal entry. Each transaction is itemized with the vendor name. And it goes against sort of a standard expense account. So you have to check it every month and change it. We're going to eventually have a bank feed. It's going to be in the next several months, sometime this year, where you're going to just be able to set the vendor, set the expense account, and then if we see the same thing, we'll just auto post it to your QuickBooks.
Like a rule.
So it'll be fully automatic for you.
That I love, because I've got a couple different folks that are especially that are e-commerce that they buy shipping expenses with PayPal, sometimes on auto.
It's hard. It's hard to tell a client not to do it.
Yeah. It's ShipStation,
especially if it's cross-border.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
we have a bunch of clients that are their suppliers are from other countries, so they're often paying them with PayPal.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
they
really
have
hard
to
to tell them no.
Yeah.
And we're gonna save
well.
those multi-currency challenges for
another day.
future
another day.
Another day.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
It's crazy.
Can I just say one thing about multi-currency? Just one super quick thing, Dan. If people shouldn't be too worried about it, if they use Bookkeep, you don't have to turn multi-currency on in QuickBooks Online because we have multi-currency built in. So that is a huge thing for people who don't want to turn it on because you can't turn it off. I know, right? You can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Okay, that's it.
But Jason, can you just elaborate a little bit on what does the journal entry look like in terms of when I'm posting my revenue, and what did I mean when I said the debit side is offsetting to the payments to be expected?
So, all right. So let me show you. Yeah, let's share this tab. So can you share the screen?
Yeah,
I'll show you with a T sheet or T chart, which, I actually did study accounting in college. And and this helps me understand it. Our summaries kind of look like this. So our summaries in our product would summarize all your income from Shopify. So $1,000 credited to some income account. The line is called sales, maybe $100 in sales tax. And this is your sales tax account in your QuickBooks. So all of this, $220 was against Shopify, and then $880 was PayPal payments. So that's the line type here. This is what our templates look like. This would be your mapping in QuickBooks. So this would be what we do is we create this thing called an Interapp clearing account, which essentially clearing accounts are not bad things. And I know the reason I started this company is because I struggled to reconcile my payments, my credit card clearing accounts in my wine store. It drove me crazy. I could never get it to balance. And that was at a time when they didn't take your fees out of your deposits. Literally, it was really just a timing difference. But the thing you need to understand about Bookkeep is you don't have to worry about that with Bookkeep. We automatically reconcile those accounts for you. We break everything into the proper sales days so that everything matches up. So that when you see your clearing account balances, that is what your actual balance is at PayPal or at Shopify. That's
what they really
or
owe
at Square.
you. That's what if you have a balance in there, that's what they owe you, right? It's like a receivable.
And
Think
that's
of it.
Go ahead. Well,
I was just going to say, people get scared of the word clearing account, but clearing account is really like a receivable.
It's a bank.
The entry comes in. Yeah. The first entry on the sales side comes in, and you'll notice it's a debit there for Shopify because it's saying here's what money Shopify owes you. So it's a debit because the credit is to sale. So this money is coming in, it's saying, okay, it's owes you. Now when the payout happens, there'll be a corresponding credit to that. It zeroes it out and the debit goes to cash. Hopefully everybody's keeping up. And so so PayPal payment, what he's showing here is the Interapp, meaning that didn't actually come in through Shopify. So that's going to come in through PayPal in a
PayPal.
Yeah, that's why I usually tell I usually say call it to be expected because that's what we're expecting.
Yeah, money coming in, money that is expected.
Clears
exactly.
Out the clearing, and we really always want that clearing account to be a natural balance of what? Zero.
What is still owed?
And you're eventually
but what is still owed?
Bookkeep, we're going to give you a screen. We're going to give you eventually a screen that's going to show you what the balance is actually at PayPal and what your balance is in your QuickBooks. And so we're going to show you all of those together. We're going to get there sometime, hopefully this year, so that you understand like everything is synchronizing properly. Because, and just to step back though, because I had this discussion at BKX yesterday with someone who was like, oh, I hate clearing accounts. You can't, clearing accounts are balances. You have a bank balance. A bank is a clearing account still. You reconcile it at the end of the month. But you have money that's owed to you. You have to book the revenue on the day it was sold. So you have to book that revenue against something, and you didn't get paid for it. You didn't receive the funds yet, right? So you have to book it against something. A clearing account is basically your balance with Shopify, your balance with PayPal. And so, yes, it used to be frustrating, but with Bookkeep, we auto reconcile that for you. I mean, it's automatically there. So your balance that you're showing in QuickBooks with Bookkeep for PayPal is what your balance is at PayPal. And that should be on your balance sheet. So, and that should be accurate every single day of the year.
Yeah, and the reason I say it really should be zero is because I'm presuming that we're sweeping that out of your PayPal account into your checking account.
Yeah, and so let's talk about this Interapp clearing account, because that's a really complicated thing to explain, and I wish I could come up with an easier way, but essentially the Interapp, to complete the thought,
a little bit, Jason. It's like undeposited funds a little bit for those that might understand QBO that way.
Well, that's the clearing account, but the Interapp clearing account should zero out, because what you're doing is you're with an so there's regular clearing accounts, which is your PayPal balance. This Shopify balance is just a clearing account, right? It's just Shopify owes you this. But we add a second clearing account in the middle between Shopify and PayPal. And the reason we do that is because you cannot always just assume that Shopify says you did $880 on PayPal. You need to check and make sure that PayPal received all those transactions too. So then we have an entry from PayPal that will match, and it should zero out. And if it doesn't, then something broke. Now, it generally doesn't break with Shopify, but it does break with WooCommerce. We do see, or if your client has created their own e-commerce system, which we've seen, the message, their system marked it as paid to PayPal, but PayPal never got that message.
Right.
And then you're not going to get paid. So what you're doing is you're just making sure that both systems are in sync. And so when you book these, so then a PayPal entry from us, instead of booking this $880 to income, we're going to book it against the same clearing account on the same day, and it's going to zero out. So your Interapp balance is zero, and now your PayPal clearing account balance is $880. And we're getting that from PayPal. So we know exactly what PayPal thinks. And if there's a difference between the two, then we know why there's a problem. And that's really important. And it's a hard thing to understand and a hard thing to set up, but it's not hard to set up, but it's hard
Jason, in this situation, can you explain the top line 1,000 and the fact that that multiple clients bought $1,000 worth of goods on this day?
Yeah.
220 of them were paid for through Shopify payments, and what was paid through with PayPal. So we understand
And
I mean, this is a standard summary.
Jason. So I want to reassure everybody, if your eyes are kind of bugging out of your head right now, thinking I will never understand this, you don't actually have to. What you have to do with your clients is come to us and say, this is how they're accepting payments. This is where those payments are happening. So in this case, PayPal is embedded inside Shopify. PayPal is a method of payment inside Shopify. So this client is selling on Shopify.
Activated accepting payments with PayPal. So within Shopify, you're going to see for this day, of the $1,000 worth of goods that were sold, $10 of sales or $100 of sales tax was collected as well. So and then after fees, we're expecting the 220 and the
Right. And just
everything
to think
has
about
to balance. Everything has to balance.
Yeah, everything has to balance out. And what this prevents is the double booking of that $880. Because if you had PayPal coming in directly, PayPal would book $880. Well, net of tax, right? It'd be, let's say $880, 800 sales and $80 tax. PayPal would book it again. So that would create a double booking of the sales.
Yeah.
So
and you have to have PayPal directly connected.
Yeah, I see that.
You have to have it directly connected to our system, or you won't have.
But
people double up their revenue all the time.
But we can tell what posts to the GL and what doesn't, and that's the beauty of Bookkeep, is that the team has worked through very complex clients that, for example, you've brought us, Rachel, or people like Maureen Stevens, who continually brings us. We go, wow, these are amazing clients that she's bringing, and they just have these complex situations, and then we work through it, and then the software gets smarter and smarter and smarter. So this is all coding. This isn't us doing. This isn't people booking entries, right? This is the software that does this, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully this is
Yeah, and
helpful and
so
we
this
haven't
is
lost
it.
all of our audience going, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I
Yeah, I
do
don't
want
know
to
if there's
mention
any question.
also that that
Mhm.
Shopify amount, the 220, actually never mind. I was just going to
Mhm.
say something too complex. Forget it. I don't want to add complexity.
But that is
So then the
Shopify
other,
taking that payment. You see, it's a Shopify payment. So that's Shopify
Yeah.
using their own payment.
Yeah, they're using their own payment, but in that 220, I'll just say it. That's where you're going to see Shop Pay is going to be paid out in that amount. And all the different Shopify things are
Right.
all going to be compiled in that one amount, which I love.
And this is, this is what it looks like. So we handle, if you recognize, actually, can I share? Well, I can't share, but if you look at the second page of the PayPal statement that you get from your clients every month, you'll recognize these terms: PayPal payments received, PayPal account fees, PayPal payments sent. Those are the different sections of your PayPal statement. And that's what we're posting with multiple different templates. So to look at, so in the example in the spreadsheet, here is, like this is an example of payments received. So we don't actually have this mapped. So this is Shopify, going against Shopify. So in the account mapping, and this is a demo account, so I'm not sure what the mapping is, this should be mapped to that intra-app clearing account to cancel out what Shopify says you did on PayPal. And here it's actually, it might be, yeah,
Well,
here
we
it
don't have
should be
we
going
don't
to
have
intra-app.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have it set up in here, but that's how. Now, if you also were selling directly through PayPal, there would be another line here of numbers that you could map to income.
Yeah.
And it's important because this has to go to your, well, this has to go to your balance. Sorry, this is the one that you would map to your income or to the clearing account.
And I'm going to let you finish the mapping. I have to bow out. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry, but I could talk about this until the end of time. I love it so much. But I just want to say for anybody that is watching, I know, I love this. I love to map. I love to troubleshoot mapping. So if anybody that's watching, ever needs help, I'm in Bookkeep every day, just FYI. I'm constantly looking at the mapping, constantly looking at issues, whatever. So just reach out to me and I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, Rachel. Thank you. Yeah. So, and again, for everybody listening, if Interapp mapping is something that you're just not confident doing, you talk to us. I mean, that's we have a team made up of controllers and accountants.
Yeah, and your support is phenomenal. When I reach out to them, they're immediately there to answer and really see on the back end what is really happening.
Through it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Can you talk a little bit about the magic wand that you have? Like if you didn't have that Interapp, can you talk a little bit about the magic wand?
I don't know if our magic. Yeah, so in our mappings, so this is a template of payments sent. So this would be, this is the one where if they're using it to pay bills, it's going to show up here. The magic wand will generate the proper chart of accounts for you. If you click on it, if you don't have the right account, or you can talk to us and we can help. But PayPal is a little more complicated to map because you need a few more accounts to track. But that's what the magic wand will help you with the mapping. And you do need to connect your PayPal though to Bookkeep because there's a bunch of other fees. There's a bunch of other stuff that we're going to capture and automatically book for you. So you have to connect all your payment systems to Bookkeep because we're going to book the fees, book the deposits, so they match in the bank feed. Like that's the value of Bookkeep is having all of that stuff booked accurately and daily and matching in your banking feed automatically from multiple systems. And we have clients who use Shopify. They have multiple Shopify stores where they use one PayPal account across all of those Shopify stores, and it all works. We can handle really complicated customers as well. But most customers are just Shopify and PayPal, and this works really well for those customers.
I'm going to throw up while you're about to talk about the next thing. If you haven't, if for those that are watching, if you haven't checked out Bookkeep, there's a little QR code that I just threw up in the corner there. Hopefully, it's not blocking anything. specific that you want to show, Jason, but if you just want to point out your phone, our friends over at Complete Business Group have a great partnership with you, and you can get signed up for a dashboard there by checking out that landing page there. So go ahead and go talk about the next thing that we're going to talk about.
Well, just in general, I mean, around what we do is we do have the ability to connect to all the sales and payment platforms. These are all the ones we connect to, pretty much most of the major ones, and we're continuing to add
Jason,
more.
I don't think you're sharing. We're looking at the.
Sorry.
There we go.
Sorry, how about this one yet? All right. Yeah, so you can see, this is a demo app, but anyway, you can see the, sorry, I was on the wrong tab. Basically, you can see that we have connectivity to all your different systems. These are the connections, and then you would be able to map these. And then you can see the different apps that we have connectivity to, which is most of the ones that your clients are going to use. And so we're really good with pulling all that data and booking the proper daily summary entries, because if your clients move from BigCommerce to Square or Shopify, I mean, and then they also start adding Amazon, you want to be able to see your revenue on every single day and be able to do comparisons, and it shouldn't matter what system they were selling on. And so the way we set it up is that you're going to have daily revenue booked no matter what platform they're on, and it's all going to be consistent. And then the other important piece that Allison was talking about is just chat us. Hey, my client's using Etsy. I've never used Etsy before. I don't know, what to do there. We can help you. And actually, I want to show you back on this tab. We have this tool. The other big problem that we know is that your clients don't always know how to give you access to the tools. So we have essentially this link here, which you can copy and email to your client, is basically like a portal link that you would send from maybe your practice management tool. That portal link basically shows all of these apps and allows them to connect. And they don't have to know who Bookkeep is. They're just going to see the name of your business. So that Client Connect link solves another problem, which is, how do I get my clients to give me access, because I can't explain it to them.
Jason,
I talk to a lot of customers.
If you click view there, does that show us the
here,
page?
I'll share.
Yeah.
So basically, where it says Bookkeep demo,
yeah,
this would be your accounting firm name, and then this would be your client name up here.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even, so then you can send them the link either by text or by chat or by email, so they know it's coming from you. And then the client can click and connect their apps here. And we even sort of set up the apps at the top that they're most likely using, so they're right there at their fingertips.
Yeah, and we tell that by the way that we know that is when you connect QuickBooks Online or Xero or Zoho Books or Sage Intacct, we can see in the chart of accounts what they're like, kind of what the activity, what they're selling on. Tends to be some hints and things there. So we'll pre-populate. But I think something I'd like to mention is that because our mapping is the same across all of the apps, we actually make all the apps look the same to the accountant or the bookkeeper. So that can be, so you don't actually have to know the ins and outs of PayPal or the ins and outs of Etsy or the ins and outs of, what have you. You just really need to understand the client's general ledger. And to Rachel's point earlier, how the data is set up, right? Like, so are they using PayPal inside Shopify, or are they using PayPal just on its own, right? So how are they using it? And you can get there just by asking your client and then logging in as them and seeing what's going on. Like if you log into Shopify as the client, and then you can see in the dashboard there what's going on, then you have a better understanding. So you'll get smarter. If that's your first client, you'll get smarter as you go down the line. But we'll definitely help. We'll help you ask all the right questions. The other thing I heard, and this is interesting because we were all at Scaling New Heights. There were a bunch of people that don't want to touch e-commerce clients because of the complexity, because they think they have to learn all these platforms, and you don't.
Right.
You just have to understand accounting, and all of you do. So that's the other thing is,
you don't if you don't want to. Right. You could, right?
You
like
can,
you can dive deep. into that
You can,
if you
but
wanted
you
to.
don't have to. You don't have to, because you just need to understand your client and what they want to do, their business goals, and then their general ledger, and then use a tool like Bookkeep to bridge that gap between, to bring the data
Also,
in.
you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. I mean, we can be your partner to help you learn it, because you're not going to be able to avoid it. Everything is done using digital payments. One of the things I mentioned yesterday at BKX was there are people selling on YouTube. There are people selling on TikTok. There are so many different platforms that there's so many options for people to create content or products and sell them, that you can't avoid e-commerce. I mean, you're just not going to find, maybe if you only do law firms or construction firms, but they're still also taking payments in multiple ways too. But it's very hard to avoid sort of retail, restaurant, and e-commerce or content. I mean, like content sellers, people selling. We have, I think it's Vagaro. I forget which one it is, but there's tools for selling educational programs, and we are integrated with one of those. As clients bring us new apps, we try and build them as quickly as possible, and we'll be doing more of that later this year.
Yeah. And that's one of the other things that I think really stands out about Bookkeep is that some people will have API integrations, and that is their listing of them. You guys take it even a step further, that if it's not on your list of things that you directly pull data directly from, you often will offer here's a report that you can send to us, and then we'll create the journal entry for you, which is phenomenal, because a lot of people will be like, well, my client's using 3 of these, but then there's another one
it's usually a legacy
don't.
system.
Yep.
It's usually some weird legacy system, and it doesn't have APIs. That's usually what it is. It's like, I don't know, some dealership software or whatever, but
they're just playing me, and not sharing.
Yeah. And so we have an AI tool to do that. So we do a little human coding, and we do charge a nominal fee for that. And then once that's up and running, it's basically an AI tool that parses it and then sends it through to the and especially if you use something like Zapier to get that automatically sent to us every night, you can automate that. So we have quite a lot of people doing that for really quite obscure systems, and that's how we're able to say 60 plus, because you won't see all 60 on this list, because some of them don't have a connector, right?
They're not a direct connector. Some of them send us data by email.
Yeah. And also, some people were surprised that we connect with Toast. There was some rumors going around that we didn't, but we do. We connect with Toast and Clover.
We connect with Toast.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. We had a lot of great conversations at Scaling New Heights, and hopefully people are learning that we are we bring us your gnarliest customers, right? Yeah.
Do you ever get people who assume that you're an outsourcing company for bookkeepers because of the name of the company?
Every once in a while. Yeah, every once in a while. I'll let Jason address that one, because
No, the software. We did get that weird question. But no, it's all software, and the services that we have, the humans, we do have a really strong services customer care team who are ex-controllers, and so they're usually quick to find errors, where basically bugs or new data that we didn't recognize, and we need to update our code to support, and that's part of the service that you're getting. It's part of being software as a service. We are the experts in Shopify. We are the experts in Amazon. We're the experts in BigCommerce. If Amazon, BigCommerce, Square, Shopify add new data, we have the ability to very quickly update our code to make sure that our summaries that you see will support those new data elements, or give you, or so it won't be rolled into, Shopify has adjustments. We break all those adjustments into what they are, so you can map them to what they are, because you don't want to just book adjustments to chargebacks, because there's sales tax removed in those adjustments. There's extra coupons that come from Meta. There is also now Shopify will charge your store through those adjustments a fee for marketing. If they send a client to your store using ShopCash, they'll charge you 50% out of adjustments. So we very quickly keep up to date and give you the ability to map those things, which is something that nobody should be able to be on top of that at any firm. You know, it's really, there's a lot to keep on top of. So that's part of the services that we offer.
Yeah. Jason, I think you can stop sharing. Maybe take the.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it here.
Also, I just shared, Dan, I just shared a link with you about what's hiding in your Shopify payout. I know we're talking about PayPal.
And I wanted to share your other link that you wanted to share about the PayPal and Venmo. So that's in there as well.
Yeah, the reason I want to share the PayPal and Venmo new innovations is everyone kind of needs to be on their toes, because PayPal wants to be the invoicing solution. So you'd be sending invoices through PayPal, which is kind of a new thing. So we'll see how that plays out. Every time there is a new, what's really kind of cool is we're kind of like a canary in a coal mine, because what happens is our most advanced customers, they read their daily emails, their status emails, right? And they see something, red, meaning it needs to be mapped. And so then they go in, some new thing happens and needs to be mapped. So then they go into their account, and then they call us and they say, well, they chat us or send us a note saying, hey, we need something to be mapped. And we go, oh, we've never seen that before. So then we immediately change the code. And then you can also go backwards and rerun days that were affected by those. So that's the other thing is that you don't have to go back manually and do it. You just can say, okay, now I've got the mapping in place. Let's go back and rerun from back to the time when PayPal added this new feature, or Shopify added the new feature.
I have a Stripe client who I've given them access to their entity in Bookkeep, because Stripe habitually will send over new items, and then it'll map to our generic item, a generic sales item. So when they see a dollar amount in there, they know, aha, something's not right. And then they'll pop back in and they go right in, find it, map it accordingly, repost it. They're done.
Yeah.
They don't even have to talk to me.
That's a great way of doing that. I hadn't thought about that. That's a great tip, Dan. That's a great tip. But your client obviously is capable accounting wise, right? You trust them.
Yeah. They were they were a controller before, and then they invested in this company. So they're just they're only looking at the profit and loss on a daily basis. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. There's your there's your snag.
I'm glad that's working. Yeah, well, what we do is we keep that generic gross sales line as kind of your ask. It could become your ask your accountant line, so that if anything fills in there, then someone needs to remap it, and then you can individually map the sub. And that we did that, to make sure that entries post without breaking every day, but it does give you the ability to sort of get alerted when new subcategory, we call them subcategories, show up.
Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour, and we try to keep these under a half hour, so we've definitely got a lot.
Oh wow!
Okay, talk about, and I've got a hard stop.
We blew that.
But Jason, anything PayPal related with Bookkeep that you want to make sure is mentioned during this workshop?
Basically, I really believe we have the best integration to PayPal, because we really simplify the complexity of PayPal into the summary entries, but still give you the itemization for when PayPal's paid out. And like I said earlier, we're going to get even better when we have our banking feed, so that you can basically set a vendor, set an expense when you see a new payout out of PayPal. And then we'll just remember that and post it every time, so that you really don't need to use the PayPal app. Which is much more complicated as part of the banking feed, and it's much more work. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of clients using PayPal with our integration. Yeah.
We had that as a session where we were talking about the bank feed and the app connection with PayPal, and how kludgy it is. That's the technical term for it.
Yep. And that's why I started this company, is because a lot of times those apps get built. That was probably built a couple of years ago. No one's touched it. They don't update it.
Yeah.
They don't keep them up to date.
And the accounting is not their priority. The taking of the money, the facilitating the money movement is their priority. So you really have to think about that. Like, what is their priority? It's not to do the accounting. It should be, but it's not.
We appreciate you both.
That's our priority
today. And yes, and you can always check out, get the QR code there. I put the link in as well. in the comments, so you can check out what Bookkeep is all about. We appreciate you joining us in your secluded basement there. Looks like in your shared workspace there. We appreciate you joining us, and we hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you next time on the workshop.
All right. Bye, everyone.